On December 12, 2009, history was made when Annise Parker became the first openly gay person to be elected to be mayor of a major US city. You and I sat down in January of 2009 before you had kicked off your campaign for mayor, and we talked then about what it was going to be like going into the campaign. So here we are today in April 2010, and you have just celebrated your first 100 days, so congratulations. Before your campaign started, you described campaigning as a combination of a job interview and a bad blind date that goes on and on and on for months and months.
I still feel the same way.
Good, well that was my question. Is that how your campaign felt?
They all feel like that. There are highs and lows in a campaign, but essentially what you're doing night after night, day after day, is going out and selling yourself. It's a singular product you're selling, and you're constantly introducing yourself to strangers and trying to make an impression. Part of how you manage that process is how you package yourself, and I don't mean that you change who you are or your core beliefs, but you figure out how best to present yourself to people, and that you have a consistent message. And I appreciated you saying that I was open and transparent in my campaigns, because I've always tried to do that. But one of the key elements has been that I knew what my positions were on issues, I knew how to articulate those positions, and the answers didn't change over the course of a campaign. And so you're trying to make that good first impression on the blind date or for the job interview without hiding who you really are.
And in January 2009, you said, because of my sexual orientation, although I'm a strong contender, I have to work harder, and I have to convince people to vote for me and allow me to work for them. How hard was it?
This was a difficult campaign. It was an expensive campaign. Ended up spending about $4 million on the race. So a lot of what I did over the year of campaigning was raise money, and that was just a huge lift to have to raise that amount of money. But because I've been elected before and voters were familiar with me, I did start from some advantage, which is that voters had a good impression of me. I had very high favorables and high name ID. We tested negative messages against me. We did our own polling where we drove down on negative messages, and if the only message people hear is, well, this is a lesbian candidate for mayor, I was going to lose. But if they heard Annise Parker has a position on public safety, she has a position on air quality, on balancing the budget, on immigration, all of these things, and of course you already know she's a lesbian, you've already voted for her before knowing that, and we just go on, that's a different dynamic with the voters.
So again, it seems like it became a non-issue again.
I wouldn't call it a non-issue. It's something that people process and think about, but the other issues were more important. They had multiple data points, and they needed those other data points to help many of them. Some people voted, they didn't care what my sexual orientation is, but there were others. I had a lot of conservative supporters who felt that I was the best candidate to deal with the fiscal issues facing the city, and they chose to make that more important than the sexual orientation.
Having been an active openly gay elected official, you would naturally assume that the LGBT community would be involved in the race, and significantly they were. But you also had Latinos, African Americans, Asians, of course women, and white conservative men. How does having this rich diversity of people supporting your candidacy help the LGBT community? And more significantly, how does having the straight white conservative men openly working on your campaign help advance LGBT equality?
It shows what we can do when we all come together for a purpose rather than concentrating on the things that divide us. Now, when I began this campaign, the traditional downtown business interests did not support my candidacy, even though they had supported me in previous races for controller and in my re-election campaigns for city council. But when you say that I had white business conservatives with me, not the usual suspects who get engaged in city races, but citizens who care about what goes on in the city, not interested in contracts, not doing work for the city. And I was able to reach them with the message. And there's an element of, well, she'll tell us the truth about her sexual orientation, she'll tell us the truth about anything. Mm-hmm. But the fact that if you went to my campaign headquarters, you saw all kinds of people coming in and out. If you sat in on the strategy sessions, you saw a range of people from across the city of Houston. And none of the other candidates in the race had the breadth of diversity. Diversity in background and ethnicity, but also diversity of thought. The one thing that they all agreed on was they wanted the best candidate for mayor who could run the city, mm-hmm. lead the city, manage the city. And it's important for our community because it reminds us once again that we have to consider ourselves as part of the larger society. It's not always being the outsider. Mm-hmm. And that if we give people a chance and allow them to see our whole selves, that we can make progress. Mm-hmm.
Do not fear to dream big dreams. Bring your whole self to everything you do. Face the world with dignity and integrity. I promise you, the pain is worth the reward. Thank you.
Annise Parker ran because she believed she was the most qualified candidate. But by being open about her sexual orientation, while serving in the highest office in the 4th largest city in the United States, Mayor Parker, by default, broadens the opportunity for the LGBT community to eventually have equal rights, equal respect, and equal responsibility.